There are three things I used to trust um, blindly, but don't anymore. Hi, this is Burl. Welcome back to my channel. Old, retired, but still learning. Um, have you ever been let down before? You talk to someone who's supposed to be an expert or something, or on something, and you find out that wasn't true at all, and you're let down. So I'd like to start my list. I know this is probably going to cause some people to push back, and that's fine. I don't mind pushback. But I would rather be honest with you in the way my experiences and the way I've learned some things I've learned about these three in particular that I want to talk about today. The first one would be doctors. Uh, Look, they're not bad. I'm not saying don't go to them. I still go when I feel that I need to. But I had, like probably most people, uh, a kind of a blind trust in them, and thinking that just because they're a doctor and they have this PhD and they went to school for all these years, that they know everything that they're talking about. But I learned after a while that necessarily wasn't true. And part of this came from when I started doing my own research on things, and found that there are some contrary views to what doctors believe. And I think, at least in some cases, what happens is a guy or a woman will go to school to be a doctor, and they have great intentions. They want to heal people. They love people. They want to help them. What happens, I think, is that they're trained a certain way, and it's hard for them later to break free of that. It's, I'm sure a lot of you may have the same experience I do. You always wanted to be handed a pill and said, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning, type stuff. But it becomes hard for them to think outside the box that they were trained in. So you come to them, you have a series of symptoms, and they check those off, and they go, okay, well, this is what you do. But I would say, next time you go, this is just my suggestion. This is kind of what I do. I try to be prepared, and know what I either, ask them questions. And if they hem-haul around, then you might be onto something there. But just be prepared when you go to a doctor, and do your own research. I mean, there's plenty of information out there anymore, and some of that's really might not be very good. So do your research on the research, I guess. And number two would be so-called experts. Experts in all kinds of fields. They told you, butter's bad for you, salt's bad for you, meat's bad for you, coffee, whatever it is, and then they come back later and totally reverse that. There's all kinds of experts on all kinds of different things, so-called experts. But again, just do your own research. Look into things. Don't just accept things blindly. Listen to 5, 10, 20 different people if you have to, and do your homework. Don't just take what they say blindly. What really got me, and maybe some of you too, and I may touch a nerve here, and again, hey, fire back at me if you want, but it was COVID. COVID made me just scratch my head and go, wait. What's going on here? Why do we all have to wear masks? Why do we all have to keep ourselves apart from each other? Why, it just, there was too much of it that was too fishy about it. And, sort of pertaining to my last video, I just think that, politics got involved in that. And just, all kinds of government officials. And I don't want to go down a big rabbit hole here, but, COVID really made me skeptical. So, again, with so-called experts, just be cautious again. And the third one, and I think this is maybe the most dangerous of all because it has to do with our spirituality and our eternity and God, is theologians or televangelists, anyone like that. And again, I'm sure there's good ones out there, but you have to be discerning. Paul talks in many of his letters about being discerning, watching out for what people are saying. Be skeptical. Compare what they say to the Bible. I won't go to a church where they don't stress the Bible. And when you do go, if you go or you're watching someone on TV or whatever it may be, have your Bible there. Verify. Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. And I'm, with all due respect, I love Reagan, but, I say go another step. Verify, then trust. So especially when it comes to your Bible, read it, study it. The Bible encourages you to study it. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, 2 Timothy 2:15. Read that for yourself. Hey, don't trust me. Don't trust me with any of this stuff. Verify what I'm saying, especially when it comes to the Bible. Verify, then trust. The Bible even teaches us to be skeptical because there are false teachers out there, people who would lead you astray. The devil really deals today in false doctrine. That's where he gets people. It's not, jumping out from behind a door and scaring you or anything like that, or making forks fly through the air or something like that. It's through deception to get you off track, to either not be saved, or if you are saved, to get you off track of the doctrine that you should be following after you're saved. So, be curious, ask questions. I used to swallow everything I heard. And I'm just here to tell you that that's not the way to live. Don't be a sucker for everything, like I was in many ways. And, it took me some time to learn to be skeptical, to question, to use your mind, the mind that God gave you. So if you like any of this content, I would encourage you to please subscribe, gently tap the like button, and don't forget to verify, then trust. Till next time, bye-bye.